the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Tulsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
And we are back. Welcome to the At the Show podcast, hosted by the Sadistic Penguin Studios. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Burt. How you doing, my man?
Welcome back, everybody. Glad to be here. This is amazing. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. I was looking at our episodes. This is episode number 28 for season 4. We are pretty much approaching I think we have 36 episodes in the past 3 seasons.
We are. I have a feeling that by the end of December, we will surpass every episode you had for the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's looking like that. I'm just going this every weekly thing is good.
What I really like the most is just we can plug in, man, and we rock. I mean, that's really it. You just got on here. I just got on here, and man, we're ready to talk some movies.
Yes, I'm Michael Pena, and that's McLovin.
I am not amused.
Good job there, Sam. So we have a big pack show for you today, action-packed show for you today. We're discussing one of the greats, Michael Keaton. We are discussing today. Some thoughts on Michael Keaton, Tone?
Oh man, one of the best. I mean, you've been in superhero movies, been in action movies, been in hardcore dramas, been in thrillers. I mean, he can do it all.
Yeah, one of the best actors. Started in comedy. Really shows like his range as an actor has continuously gotten better as he gotten older. Still the best Batman in my opinion. I know people are not going to like that, but still the best Batman. I love Keaton and everything he does, even the horrible horror movies that he gets ripped on for, like White Noise. But we're going to be doing not a deep dive, but we're going to be talking about some of our Michael Keaton favorites that we have. Some deep cuts, some ones you may know. So we have a surprise list for you doing that. But first, Tone, let's get into our regular scheduled programming. And go in. I'm sorry, I'm reading with Sam's commentary. If you hear me laughing and you're listening to the audio version, check out the live version or the recorded version on YouTube because Sam posts some funny comments and he just made fun of my pack tonight. He says Yumper has a big pack for all of us tonight, huh? Yes. But let's get into what we've been watching, my man.
That's a meme. And also, what were you just watching?
Tone, what were you watching this week, my friend?
2 movies that I watched this weekend. First off is Steven Soderbergh's Behind the Candelabra, a movie that was made for HBO. Came out about 5-6 years ago. And honestly, this movie is one of my personal favorites for a lot of reasons. Not much the music, even though I am a big music man. It came out a little longer than that. It came out 11 years ago, 2013. But I've watched it so many times, it feels like it came out about 4 years ago. But for me, this movie, the performances of Michael Douglas and Matt Damon really seal it. If you're looking for something that is really, really campy and really, really ridiculous, The Life of Liberace is the story in this movie.
In a few days.
Oh, no, I don't want baby boy to have to wait that long. Why don't you just book a flight and come up this evening at my expense?
Again, really out there performance by Michael Douglas playing Liberace, but even more is Matt Damon. And the reason I bring this movie up is the character that Matt Damon plays in this movie sadly passed away in real life this week, Scott Thorson. And this movie is a really interesting look behind the actual candelabra. And if you're looking, Steven Soderbergh, who has done great movies, the Ocean's 11 series, he has done so many awesome movies. His movie direction and style, you can see it in this movie. And he's actually got this new horror movie coming out that I'm sure we'll talk about when it does. But again, one of my personal favorites. Again, it's a really, really good look at somebody who, honestly, I didn't know anything about until I just watched this on HBO. You ever see this one?
Not this film, but from the comments, what Caitlin is saying that this is better, a hidden gem of Michael Douglas and Matt Damon in perfection. And yes, Buster Keaton is better than Michael Keaton, I guess. Buster Keaton, the comedian. But yeah, definitely interesting. And Liberace was such a an interesting, character. Of course, before my time, and I don't know, it's probably a little bit before yours as well. I mean, you're probably really young when he passed. I think it was like 88 when he died.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody talks about him. Like everybody talks about like his impact on not just the opera, but like his performances, his extravagant lifestyle. Like, so it would be something interesting for me to check out.
What famous horror movie, the lead horror character in the movie is a fan, and I'll say she is a fan of Liberace?
Ooh.
Kathy Bates.
Oh, Misery?
Mm-hmm. When she says to him, when you're done writing it, we could sit up and listen to my Liberace record.
Oh,
so that's
hilarious
because I think of this movie too, but ridiculous. If you get a chance, it is actually more funny than it is anything serious. Rob Lowe does a really great job in the movie too. But yeah, that's that. And the other thing that I watched was last weekend, I saw Alien Romulus. I had it.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to really digest what I watched in a way. Don't want to give away any spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but from me being somebody who has digested every piece of Alien lore up until this point, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would go into the 6 range, 5.5, 6. I could even be a little bit more harsh if I wanted to. It could be for many reasons. It could be because I really hyped it up in my head and it did not live up to what I wanted it to be. It could be that it's a conglomeration. It reminds me a lot of Rise of the Skywalker, where you're just getting a little bit of everything from about 5 or 6 movies. And even what you are getting that's original doesn't really feel. But the one thing I will say about the movie beyond all of that is it looks great on the screen. It looks stylishly awesome. The performances are really good. It's just some things differently I would have probably done different in the storyline.
So this story takes place between Aliens and the original Alien, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, because I think I saw a list of how to watch the Aliens in progression of sense of time. I think Alien versus Predator Requiem, and then Alien versus Predator, and then I believe it's Alien, then this one, Prometheus.
Like there's parts of this movie,
Prometheus movies, and this one, like, or something like that.
There's definitely Prometheus in this movie. There's a lot of, actually, you wouldn't believe it, a feeling of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. And then there's obviously the feeling of Alien. I'll just give one gripe, just one small gripe for myself is, that at the beginning of the movie, they are they work on a planet that they are pretty much like a mining planet. And they have the opportunity to go up to this, not really the opportunity, they're just going to take the opportunity to go up to this abandoned spaceship. And what ends up happening is so they go, this was my problem, they go literally up into space and they're at the craft.
Oh, okay.
They didn't go up in space and fly a while and find it. It was literally they're on the planet and the ship just goes up and they're like, okay, there it is. And like, to me, there's a little bit too much of that in here. Like, and one review I read, and this will be the last thing I'll say. It was like, there was a pause and a play on when you wanted to decide when you wanted everything to come to life and when you didn't. which is a little bit different than honestly rewatching Alien and Aliens. It's very organic. Like, you don't have that feeling. It feels like you're there in the thing. But honestly, worth checking out because it is an alien movie. Better than probably this movie we're going to talk about here in a few minutes that you went and seen. What have you been watching?
But before we go, the order I was telling you about.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's AVP, Alien versus Predator first.
Uh-huh.
The second movie is Aliens versus Predator, Requiem. Then you watch Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien the original, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection. And Romulus will fall in between Alien and Aliens. So it'll be right between those two. So it would be the sixth movie you watch and the rest of them on.
And
I don't
real
know,
quick, and also real quick, they're adding, I don't know if you know this, next year on FX, there's going to be a television show, which is supposedly taking place before Alien, and it's on Earth, so it's going to be interesting.
That's interesting. I will watch it.
Yeah,
I mean, I like Alien. I think Resurrection kind of is the thrown around term for like movies that just get remade. Resurrection. It's kind of a cash grab. Yeah, but I can feel you. It's kind of funny you saw that movie and then, but let's get into what I watched that was good.
Yeah.
So I am a huge fan of the George Lopez show. For those who have not woken up at 2 a.m. with their TV still on, you probably heard Lowrider by War playing, and you see the introduction of them jumping on a trampoline. I have watched it like when it first came out. I had all the seasons on DVD that they were released. I think they had seasons 1 and 2, which you have here. I don't know if they released 3 and 4, but I was waiting for them to come out. Peacock has all them on there now, which I have been watching, just going through them. I finished Suits for like the 7th time. So I wanted to try something new. I didn't want to get to Vice yet because I want to dedicate a little more time to it. So I started watching George Lopez during my lunch breaks and when I have free time. So I'm through season 2 right now, but funny show. I mean, it's one of the first Latino-driven shows that I can remember. Probably, just a full Latino cast since in America, like Americanized one that I can remember. Maybe in history, I haven't really looked into it. But it was revolutionary for its time. I mean, it brought his career up from just being a comedian with a lot of help from Sandra Bullock. And she's actually in the show for a few episodes, and she produces it. But it brought him a household name. He got a TV show out of it. He got movies out of it. And now he's getting booed off stage on comedy shows. But I remember the Latin Kings of Comedies where I was first introduced to him. And he sold a show that day. And I guess that kind of popped him off to this. But if you haven't seen it, it's kind of funny. It kind of peeks into like behind the curtain a little bit about his own personal life growing up. He didn't really have parents. He was raised by his grandmother and they didn't really have a great relationship. And he kind of puts that on his mom. But he turns into funny. So there's a lot of stuff in there that Latino families will get, and even the American viewer will get. I'm sure you've watched George Lopez before.
Oh yeah, I mean George Lopez. I've spent many times. I went through a lot of comedians, and he is one that. I mean, he's, as you stated, you know what I mean? He's a classic for what he does. And this television show, I love shows like this. I mean, I'm a sucker for a show that just has this setup. And because there's quite a bit you just can, because it makes you feel good. I mean, right? When you watch this movie, this show, you're not like, it's to make you feel good. And George does a good job doing that.
Yeah, a lot of good comedy thrown around. And then, so I mentioned last week that I did happen to go see the 2024 remake of The Crow. This film was in development hell for years. I know there is rumors of Jason Momoa taking over it. At the end, Bill Skarsgård decided to join the film. He's in it with FKA Twigs, who's a singer. Danny Hudson's in it, which I couldn't think of his name, but until you reminded me, Danny Houston, I'm sorry, is in it. It's directed by Rupert Sanders, who did Snow White and Huntsman and Ghost in the Shell, which got bombed, the American version. So I went in with a clear mind. As most of you know, and I know Tony knows, I am a huge fan of the original Crow, not just for the music soundtrack, which I think is epic and was probably mostly known for, but the iconic appearance of the way the film is shot, it's really dark. Alex Porras, who does the film, does Dark City, and you can see a lot of the Crow in that film. That film's really creepy. I really like that film as well. I just love the way it's dark. And the original books, I read the first 3 of them. They were all in a dark way written. Now, the Brandon Lee facial paint is Brandon Lee's own take on the Crow. The facial paint actually in the Crow, this film, the Crow, is actually the way it is in the book, which is fine. So without further ado, I went to the film with my wife. She went with me. She's a fan of the Crow as well. We actually sat into seats next to people who were wearing the Brandon Lee shirts. It was like Crow mega fans with us on the right of us. It was the first weekend it opened. It wasn't packed, which kind of gave me a warning. I didn't see any reviews on it from like Roper or anybody like that, which kind of gave me red flags there. But I sat down to watch it, and the first 45 minutes were basically a love story. And it was like, am I watching The Crow? And people will say, oh, well, it's a remake. It's that, they're just taking it a different. I call bullshit on that, because if you're taking a different way to take the story, then you don't name the characters Eric and Shelley. If it was a sequel to The Crow, that's fine. But this is a remake. You're telling the retelling of the story. Now, did I expect it to be the Porras version? No. Some of the cinematography was nice. Some of the scenes that were shot were really nice. It's more gory than the original. I personally did not like it. My wife did not like it. I thought the music soundtrack was horrible in it. And I'm a huge fan of Santi Gold, but you had some knockoff version of Santi Gold playing. It just didn't go with it. I've heard people call this movie emo. There's not one emo thing about this film. The only emo thing is the way Robert Bill Skarsgård looks. The characters I felt were not likable in terms of Eric and Shelley. They were. I'll tell you. I'll give you a quick spoiler. They're drug addicts in this film.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
I know, yeah.
They're not likable. They really aren't. It doesn't explain a lot of things that have happened. Some of the characters aren't even named. And I know in the original Crow, Top Dollar wasn't named, Michael Wilcott's character, but it's pretty much known he was Top Dollar. And they kind of messed around. They have a character that's kind of like the Skull Cowboy, which was in the original, but they cut it out. They have a character like that in here, but it's not a Skull Cowboy. It's actually just a man. It's kind of like out there. There's some stuff that they threw in from the books, like the horse with the thorns, with the barbed wire, which is fine for the book, but the emphasis on this film just made it was a waste of time. I was very displeased, and when the music was playing, my wife was just looking at me laughing, because she's like, yeah, and I'm like, this does not belong in like a film like this. It didn't go with it. And there's Dante's Inferno. There's a scene with Dante's Infernal, and that opera scene of it where he goes on this killing spree. It made no sense. There was no likable characters in it. And usually, like, I know Brian doesn't like the original, but he always says the soundtrack was great. There was no good thing that came out of this. I read reviews from people who said they liked it, and I read reviews of people who said that they hated it. My final thoughts on it. I thought The Crow Salvation with Edward Furlong was better than this film.
Oh wow,
that's just me. I think they spent too much time on the love story instead of getting to the revenge and whatnot. I thought the way they did it in the original, where they did flashbacks of him like showing his love, was good. And Jack, you know what? Unlikable drug addicts. We have a film that we're going to talk about tonight where somebody has an addiction.
Yeah,
and he's not likable, but his character
is unlikable.
Yeah, the way he's played is likable. I mean,
yeah,
but you're supposed to like these characters. I don't know.
I mean, Skarsgård's a good actor. Unfortunately, I think just like not Alien was better, it sounds like, than this, but still, when you have just the script, that it doesn't matter who you are as an actor, man, it's going to drag you down. Danny Houston's a great actor. We discussed that last week. Yeah, not pleasant on the eyes, but I did, out of like 100 bad reviews, see one person who tried to make light of the movie and liked. And I was trying to, like, of course, when it comes on streaming, I'll check it out. But I'm glad thank you for your service, Jumper, for going to see this movie.
It's funny you say that because I am a movie nerd, a legit one. You know that. I'm a part of a Crow Facebook group, and they were building this up for since it was the Momoa days. Like, if you guys don't know, Jason Momoa, who is Aquaman, he released a short of him in the Crow makeup. He's a huge fan of the original. From what my understanding is that he wanted to do a film, but he didn't want to do the original. He wanted to do a sequel to it, but pay homage. He wanted to be a police officer who was killed with his family and then comes back, which I thought was awesome. Like, to think about it, it's a different, and with him, the style he wanted to shoot looked awesome. He left because they wanted to redo the original. That's why that was one of the sticking points of the reason he left. And it's funny you say the Crow famously bubbly, Sam, because there's a part in there with champagne. There's also a part where they go to a camping site and the girl dances around a fire. It looks like a legit romance movie. Like, you would not think of it as a Crow.
No, if I'm going off the top of my head, it was 97 or what year did City of Angels come out? Do you know? 96, 97, 98?
I think City of Angels came out in 96.
I saw that one in the theater with my friends. I did not see the original, and I left not like, this movie stinks. Like you stated, you probably like that one a lot better than this one because it still has a feeling of what the Crow stands for and probably how you feel about it.
Yeah, I think that one, it's I don't like the retelling. Tell a different story. That's what I like. And Hollywood, this is, I've talked about this on previous podcasts. Hollywood's kind of going through where it's trying to get a cash grab. If you make a remake and it's good, then, I'm all for it. We just talked about the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is a remake. It's considered one of the greatest remakes, if not the greatest remake in film history. And that's not just me saying it. That's critics, Ebert, Siskel has even said. Siskel hates horror movies. Other people, respected people with bigger opinion, bigger, clout than me and Tony have read this.
Oh yeah,
you can do it. It just don't do a cash grab. And I understand this is a cult classic that didn't make a ton of money at the beginning. It made good money, but it just, I don't know. You brought it back for this, and now any good storylines that are going to come out of this, that would have came out of something that was successful, are dead now because it's damaged goods.
Oh, real quick before we move on, they just made an announcement this week of a movie that we covered. Well, we said how many episodes have we done? 27. We covered it 20 episodes ago. It's La Bamba.
Mm-hmm.
They're remaking La Bamba now. Really quick, just a quick idea. How do you feel about that?
So the original actor, not the original actor, the original creator of the story is involved, and he is considered the godfather of Latin Broadway. I would like to see how it goes. I think the original was good, but I don't know if you can have anybody replace.
Let me put you this way: in today's society, is this the movie that people are going to feel like they did about the original? That's the problem. It's like West Side Story with Spielberg. It could be a great movie, but it's not going to give you the feeling of that original West Side.
I don't think so. I hope they go into more detail.
That is something that could be a positive more. But who are we getting?
Yeah,
to replace the great Lou Diamond Phillips and
Isai Morales. Who you gonna get to replace him?
That's it right there.
Pop stole the show.
That's it. Even Elizabeth Pena and the what I can't remember her name, who played the mother. She did a great job.
She was in Stand Deliver too.
Yeah, who are you getting to replace it? That's really in my head. Just like in The Crow. Honestly, Brandon Lee is a huge what if story, and Skarsgård, he probably will not make another Crow after this. If Brandon Lee would have lived, how many Crows would he made if he would have still lived?
I don't know. Yeah, but that was his shot to start Superstar. Yeah. He was supposed to be Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
But enough of my ranting. This is what we watched this week. If you feel different about the movies we talked about, Alien Romulus and The Crow, let us know in the comments. Let us know in DMs, tweets, anywhere. We have our stuff. Time for Timothy Chalamet to do an Eddie Murphy style picture where he plays all the roles. It could be, but he's actually going to be playing Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah,
which looks kind of interesting.
it does. It does. That was one of the trailers for Alien. I don't know if
same thing for The Crow, the Bob Dylan film. So it looks like I'll definitely go see that. I guess he does his own singing, but
it's a musical one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of musicals coming out this year too. Some big ones. Joker 2 is coming out.
That'll be interesting.
But yeah, that's what we've been watching this week. Please bear with us for our rants. And again, let us know what you guys think over at the Show Pod, or at Lil Yumper on Twitter, or at the Sugar Baggy. We are also on Facebook and YouTube. Let us know in the comments. But Tone, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. Let's stop whining about not whining, feeling depressed about the films we saw, and let's talk about some good stuff with our man Michael Keaton.
Let's do it.
So just a little background on Mr. Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton has been nominated for only one Oscar, which I thought was really crazy when I was looking through his stuff. He's been nominated for one Oscar, which he did not win. Of course, it was for Birdman. He has 2 Golden Globe wins for Best Actor, one in a show called Dope Sick and the other for Birdman. And he was also nominated for Live from Baghdad. He has earned $6.8 billion in films, meaning his films have all earned, whether he's starring, producing, or supporting actor. All his films have made $6.8 billion, which is ridiculous. So people don't think of Michael Keaton as a moneymaker, and he is definitely a moneymaker in film. Tone.
He sure is. And honestly, he's still to this day putting out quality work. And by all indications, by listening, the main reason we're doing this is because, well, he's got a new Beetlejuice coming out. Beetlejuice. And not only that, but recently on HBO, he released this new movie that kind of slipped under the radar this last year called Knox Goes Away. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like a thriller, kind of. And it's really good. So check that out too.
Yes, and of course he has reprised his role in, as Batman, of course, in The Flash. He's also done a movie that has not seen the eyes of the audience in Batgirl. I think it was written off as a loss. There is push to get that, released. He's acted in 92 films. So, and he's 72 years old, and hopefully he goes stronger. He looks good. He's still got his he's still there. Acting chops are still strong. So hopefully he can put out some more bangers before, he settles and rides off to the sunset.
What I really like about him is just this week, this story came out because he was in Tim Burton's Dumbo. And in this article, he stated how he felt he kind of let Tim Burton down, that he didn't feel like he gave everything he could. Now, that's a man who really cares about his craft still late in the game. And honestly, that's really admirable.
Yes, sir. You want to get into the first one, my friend?
Let's do it.
We had a big day out there. Big one. We've got a full moon. People are going to be amped. All right? Let's see what we got on hot tips. All right? Whoa. The new bath mats are here. One more thing. We got a serial rapist in Crown Heights. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. That's from my other job. Ignore that. Forget that. Well, don't ignore it. If you live in Crown Heights, walk in pairs.
2010's The Other Guys. Michael Keaton plays the role of Captain Gene Mock. It's directed by Adam McKay, who also directed Vice, Don't Look Up, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, Anchorman 1 and 2, and The Big Short. The film stars Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg, Eva Mendes, and of course, Michael Keaton. It had a budget of $100 million and a box office of $170 million, with $32 million coming in video sales. Now, although Keaton does not star as the lead in this film, he is rather hilarious as the supervisor or lieutenant of the detective squad, Gene Mock, who also works at Bed Bath & Beyond, which is what he was doing there, telling his employees about the new bath mats. He is, to me, it's one of my favorite roles of him because he always quotes TLC, and my wife, being a huge TLC fan, laughs at it. I don't want you to go chasing the waterfalls. I don't want no scrubs. And then he doesn't realize that he is doing so when they talk to him. Just a bunch of great comedic timing, great buddy cop film. And he just adds in that extra, flair and comedy to it. One of my favorite parts is when he's on the phone and Will Ferrell comes in and says, "Gator needs his get, you big time bitch." And he's like, "What?" And he just gives it back to him. It just makes me laugh. This film. The Other Guys is a film that doesn't really talk a lot about in Will Ferrell's filmography, as well as Keaton's, and it's one of my favorite Keaton performances. What about you, Tom?
Really hilarious movie. Since we've done the amazing, hilarious comedy episode with Mr. Sam Reeves, I've been catching a lot of Will Ferrell on television and been laughing. And honestly, The Other Guys is another great example of that. And with Michael Keaton, being who Michael Keaton is, and honestly, he can do the dry, like his delivery is dry, which makes it hilarious. Where like some people, it sounds like they're trying to be funny, where he is being funny just naturally. And I think that's what he's great at in this role, especially.
Yes, he is naturally funny. And the crazy thing is, though, Tone, I was doing a little research for this. There was a possibility of Mark Wahlberg and Michael Keaton working together in a film called Batman Forever, which I know you love. Wahlberg was considered to play Robin, and Keaton was originally considered to play Batman again. Of course, he did not. He turned it down. So Wahlberg did not get the role of Robin, but that would have been kind of funny.
Now, this is really a big year for, I think, by taking a look for Mr. Michael Keaton is 2010. Because in 2010, it's a good 4 or 5 years before he has a movie that is super successful. And also in 2010, he comes out with Toy Story 3, and his performance as Ken is hilarious also. So like in 2010, you can say, in a way, is a little bit of that Keaton renaissance that's getting people refamiliared, because before that, it had been a while since he had been something that memorable for people to remember.
Yeah, and this film has it all. It has comedy, it has action, it has like baseball superstars and Derek Jeter, who gets shot by Mark Wahlberg. It also has Ice-T doing the narration of it. A decent soundtrack too. I always remember Season of the Witch when he's becoming the police crossing guard and it's playing while he's doing that part. Always makes me laugh. It's got probably one of the most memorable Will Ferrell flashbacks when he talks about being Gator, his alter ego Gator, it was actually a pimp. But it's pretty hilarious. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, and then all of a sudden, Steve Coogan's in this too, and Steve Coogan is hilarious. I mean, anything. And rewatching it, I forgot he was in this too.
Yes, he's one of the bad guys when he gives him the cucumber flavored water, and they're very excited about that. I love this quote from
what's up, Philly?
My man Sam. It says, "Listen, guys, I've got 2 jobs. I work here, and I have another job at Bed Bath and Beyond. I'm doing it to put a kid through NYU so he can explore his bisexuality and become a DJ." Michael Keaton at his finest there, being hilarious. Yeah, it's a great film. They play off each other so well. And you got to remember, too, the buddy cop, there's another buddy cop film that came out during this time. It was the Bruce Willis, Tracy Morgan, Kevin Smith vehicle, Cop Out, that bombed, and Kevin Smith hates it.
Oh, yeah.
So this one was one of the better of the two. But if you haven't seen the other, guys, check it out. But Tone, let's go into yours, my man.
Let's do it.
We're going to do it the Jack Butler method. What is this? This is nuts.
Mr. Mom, directed in 1983, released in 1983, directed by Stan Drogati. He also directed She's Out of Control, The Man with One Red Show, Dirty Little Billy, and Necessary Roughness, which is a great film. It was written by John Hughes, who directed such films such as Breakfast Club, Home Alone, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Pretty in Pink, Uncle Buck, Weird Science. He was like the master of the 80s and teenager dramas and comedies. The film stars Michael Keaton, Terry Garr, Frederick Kohler, Taliesin Jaffe, and Martin Mull, the late great Martin Mull. The movie had a box office of $64 million on a $5 million budget.
Wow.
So I picked that quote because it always cracks me up, because he's like, "We're doing it my way." And he's like, "What is this?" And it's so he's trying to take his kids to school during the pouring rain. But let us know why you picked this film as one of your great Keaton explorations.
Probably my first, honestly, if you said in your head, what do I remember the first? And it's not like I sat down and watched it. I remember my mom watching this movie and like me walking in and her just saying how much she liked the movie. But now recent, in the last couple of years, I've rewatched it, and the story is pretty something that I think it actually resonates more now than probably it did even when it came out. Just the idea that he has to stay at home with the kids because unfortunately he's been laid off, and that whole interaction with the laying off and the working is again just great. Michael Keaton, he's delivering the lines in a very humorous way that you wouldn't usually try to laugh at because he's getting fired or leaving, and Terry Garr is great too, and Martin Mull. I mean, there's not a whole lot not to say about this movie. It reminds me a lot of the movie I talked about last week, Overboard. You can play them back to back and have a really feel good time because at the end they got a really good message. I mean, that's really the point for this one, I think.
Yeah, and you have like a younger Christopher Lloyd in this film. I mean, he's old, but he looks young. I totally forgot he was in this film. Jeffrey Tambor, who is his boss, is in this film.
Great.
I watched it today when I was finishing up our notes and stuff, just to see it again because it's a quick watch and it's pretty hilarious. It feeds on all the stereotypes that they believe that women go through to, as a stay-at-home mom, and he basically took it, and a lot of that stuff still kind of rings true what the moms go through. It's not an easy job to be a stay-at-home mom like people think it is, especially when he has 3 kids to take care of. The first time he gives his kids a bath, he has one of his kids in the water with his socks on because he's in like water touching his feet, which makes no sense. When he's doing the laundry, he basically puts all the detergents into one thing. The house almost gets set on fire. He loses his kids at the grocery store. It's just a lot of like tomfoolery that happens. It's pretty crazy that Ron Howard was actually asked to direct this film, but he turned it down in order to make Splash. And Keaton turned down Splash to make this film. This is his first film he ever had for top billing, but it wasn't. He was the only person considered for it. For the role of Jack Butler, they had Chevy Chase considered, Michael Douglas, Steve Martin, and John Travolta. Also for Caroline Butler, who's Terry Garr's character, they had Karen Allen, Jane Curtin, Farrah Fawcett, and Sally Field. I think they picked the 2 right actors to be in this film. I think, of course, Chevy Chase and Steve Martin are hilarious in their own way, but I think Michael Keaton's kind of like, he's still a jock. Like he even shows in the film a little bit. And he's got that dry sense of humor, kind of puts it out there that makes me laugh. That it was just perfect for this one.
Well, that's what's another movie which we're not going to cover tonight, but there's kind of a little bit of a connection that you shared with me that I didn't know about, was that Michael Keaton's character in the movie, he states, where are we going to catch on? Nagasaki? And then 3 years later, he stars in this movie Gung Ho, which is pretty awesome, hilarious movie that's got another hilarious Michael Keaton performance. But even there, that's kind of a cool little connection.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. So, Brian, there's your Gung Ho reference on you saying that we better have it. But I knew we were going to mention Gung Ho at one point in here. But yeah, this is like, it's kind of crazy how those 2, films are kind of related. He was both in the automotive industry. There's certain parts too where he says, "Talk to my kid like that again, I'm gonna knock you out." And the way he punches the guy it just makes me laugh because it's a held back punch, but it still makes me laugh. And then it's crazy. What's her name? The girl that loves him, Jane. I think her name is. Yeah. She's like in love with him. That she doesn't care that he's married. She just runs over there, and then he has dreams of a soap opera. It's a bunch of stereotypes, but it's funny.
Joan,
and
Jillian. Yeah,
Joan. That's her name. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's definitely worth to watch. It's short, and it gets to the point that, and you could tell it's like a John Hughes film because it's a real smooth sailing. Doesn't drag on. Check this one out for sure. Good pick, Tom.
Thank you.
But let's get into our next film.
Prostitution. Hey, we can say it. We're big kids now, right? A lot of times it'll help you to understand a word if you break it down. So let's do that now, shall we? Pros doesn't mean anything. Forget about that. Tit, I think we all know what that means. Two, tit. And shun, of course, from the Latin to shun. Say no, thank you anyway, I don't want it. To push away. Doesn't even belong in this word, really. So let's get rid of that.
1982's Night Shift. Michael Keaton plays the role as Bill Blazejowski, or Billy Blaze, as he calls himself in the film. The film is directed by Ron Howard, who also did Apollo 13, The Paper, Backdraft, Parenthood, Willow, Gung Ho, Cocoon, Ransom, Cinderella Man, The Missing, A Beautiful Mind, Frost Nixon, and Splash. It stars Henry Winkler, Michael Keaton, Shelley Long, Gina Hike, and Bobby DeCicco. This is actually This is actually Keaton's film debut, and he steals the show in this film. It had a box office of $21 million on a budget of $8 million. It was my first introduction to Michael Keaton. My parents loved this film of Night Shift. I remember they had an old poster my dad had down in the basement, rolled up of this film, and it's him on a bike. Michael Keaton's on a bike, which always cracks me up. But he is so eccentric in this film. He's a guy who has so many ideas. Like, he wants to put, for tuna fish, he wants to feed the fish mayo before giving them to people, so people can get mayo with tuna fish already. Just the stupid things he comes up with. He knows he's gonna win at blackjack, and he goes to the casino and he loses big, and he says he gets kicked out because he was gonna win big, but the real reason they kicked him out was because he threw his drink at the dealer because he thought he was cheating. Just stuff like that. And then you have the meek little, opposite of the Fonz and Henry Winkler, who just basically just eats shit all the time and just takes it, doesn't fight back. He has like a condescending girlfriend who's obsessed with her weight. He sees that his neighbor across the way is a prostitute, and he named Shelley Long. He eventually falls in love with her, and Michael Keaton brings up this crazy idea. How about we become their pimps? Since her pimp's dead, we work at a morgue. Let's run her business out of there, and they run a business out of there. Also, you get a first appearance of Kevin Costner in this film as a frat boy. It's like they played Winkler and Winkler and Keaton played so well together off this film. As a straight man and the goofy guy, I really enjoyed it. I watched this one yesterday night, and I still laughed at it. And you also get a Richard Belzer appearance, who is the cousin of Henry Winkler, for those who don't know, a Munch from the SVU series. But this is one of my favorite Keaton films, and it's the film that put him on the map. What do you think about this one, Tone?
This is my favorite Keaton film, and this is the favorite film that we're talking about tonight, for lots and lots of reasons. I'm not going to cover them all tonight because you're going to be like, this is Chuck telling Bill to shut up. That would be you, and keep playing that. So maybe we need that sound clip if we ever keep talking. This is Chuck telling Bill. But that again is just a great movie. For me personally, again, loving music. The music in this movie is incredible. My dad, like your dad, was again huge into this movie, and so was my mom. I can't remember if it was this or I just went with Mr. Mom because I can't imagine me seeing this first at like 6 or 7, but I do remember Mr. Mom. But what I do remember is my dad saying this was his introduction to this band, and this is one of my favorite bands. The scene when they go into the dance club and talk is blasting. From my father, he immediately ran out and had to find Talk. And I remember growing up and going to lots of malls and him buying lots of Talk cassette tapes, all spanning from Night Shift. My love of Talk, I guess, is spanned from Night Shift. The comedy in this movie is tops. Michael Keaton, if you love comedy, Michael Keaton is delivering top of his game comedy. And actually, Henry Winkler is doing a very good job too. It's sad that he doesn't do more of this in movies because he's great in Waterboy. He's great in this. There's a big gap, between Scream, but there's not a lot more. But man, the scenes, and honestly, the scene you played there, the clip at the beginning, just that whole entire scene, man, I'll never forget going and running to my friends and needing to show them that scene right there and saying, I got the scene to show you, prostitution, okay? Pro. And then we went through it, and we would always keep doing it. So I'm going to have to reach out to some friends and let them know that they definitely need to see this tonight.
Yeah, and this one of the parts that always cracks me up too is when he's like, "Oh, we gotta protect the girls. We gotta protect the girls," and he's like, "What's in your shirt?" And he pulls out the big wads of
Yeah,
napkins.
yeah, I look tougher.
Yeah, he's got wads in his shirt to make him look like he's got more muscles, which cracks me up. Even at the end when he works for the Club Paradise
Oh yeah,
as the caveman,
comes in.
and he tells the boss like jag off, and he's like, "What'd you say?" He's like, "Oh, no, but I heard it's it's a music. It's really loud, isn't it?" Like he's awesome in the film, and he has some physical comedy for Keaton. I always from this film I always remember the song "Talk Talk," and I remember Jumping Jack Flash.
Oh yeah,
Because that's all he sings.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, with Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard, when he drives him, he tells him, "You like music?" He's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
He's like, he starts singing "Jumping Jack Flash" for him while they're driving away. Just a great film, and Kurt Russell and Mickey Rourke were considered for the role of Billy. I'm glad Keaton got it. It's perfect for him, and I'm glad this kind of shot him off to superstardom.
Another great again musical scene is when they throw the party at the morgue and Van Halen's blasting, and all the girls are all over the place. I mean, the movie is just a dream. And that too. And I'm the whole idea, man.
Yeah.
They're rushing at me, Chuck. There's a quote though that I use a lot, and nobody knows what I'm ever talking about, and it's a scene at his job, and I always say this, and it's when the other guy comes in and he's like, I'm working here now, and he's like, my name's so, and then he goes, oh, you got the same last name as the other guy. He's like, yeah, it's because he's like, because he sucks and has to work in the midnight shift because this guy's family's taking over.
He's my nephew or something.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, don't worry about that, don't worry, he's my nephew. And Winkler gets pushed around. His wife is hilarious, his first wife in the movie, the one he's gonna marry, and she's like, have to keep turning the lights on, and they're struggling.
Search the house.
Yeah.
It cracks me up too when Keaton first meets him, and he comes and he's like, "Oh yeah, my name is Bill Blazonowski. You can call me Billy Blaze." And he goes, "Yeah, is that your wife?" He's like, "Oh no, it's my fiance." He's like, "Oh," he looks at the picture and he's like, "Nice frame," and then he puts it back down. It's just like he's just so weird and eccentric. It just cracks me up. He just continuously talks to him the whole time while they're there. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a movie that brought him to superstardom, and actually, this film is the reason that he got Mr. Mom in the first place. It was his first film after his success at Night Shift. So if you want to see early Keaton, the earliest Keaton, check this one out. You won't be disappointed. Tone, let's go on to your next pick, my man.
Let's do it.
I think maybe you got a little too much sugar in your diet. We do things differently around here, Dan. Put the gun away.
Maybe I will and maybe I won't.
Stash the rod, Danny.
You shouldn't grab me, Johnny. My mother grabbed me once. Once.
Johnny Dangerously, released in 1984. Michael Keaton plays a role as Johnny Dangerously, aka John Kelly. The film is directed by Amy Heckerling, who also did Loser, Look Who's Talking, and Look Who's Talking 2, National Lampoon's European Vacation, Fast Time at Ridgemont High, and Clueless. It stars Michael Keaton, Joe Piscopo, Marlou Henner, Maureen Stapleton, and Peter Boyle. The movie had a box office of $17 million on a budget of $9 million. Tell me why you picked this one.
Well, we like gangster movies, we like comedy, we like ridiculousness, we like Michael Keaton. Huge fan of a lot of the actors in this movie. This is actually one only a couple years ago. I finally sat down because I would catch little pieces of this all the time, like in my teenage years, and I'd be like, I'm not watching this. This is like the 1930s. But then I know Michael Keaton and some of the other movies we're going to talk about later. I had to watch this. And honestly, the Shankster reached out on our Twitter earlier, and he stated this was his favorite movie by Keaton. It's very unique in the way it's filmed, the way the set pieces look, the delivery. It's cool because it has a classic gangster feel.
Yeah, and this film was actually inspired by James Cagney and a lot of films that he did in the 30s and 40s. Cagney was the quintessential mobster. You know, he played a lot of Italian characters. He played a lot of mobster guys. That's what, you dirty rat from the Ninja Turtles film is, given to him, even though he never said those lines. You killed my brother, you dirty rat. That's like this James Cagney. And Keaton actually has a lot of Cagney looks in this film. If you look at him, like he has like the eyeliner under his eyes that Cagney had in his films. It's a total like crazy comedy to the point that people who are a fan of the mob comedies, this is probably one of their favorites. Brian De Palma, who is known for JFK, no, not for JFK, but he's known for what's it called? The movie with Sean Connery and Kevin Costner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Untouchables.
Untouchables.
Yes, he loved this film so much that he cast Danny DeVito and Joe Piscopo in his next project, Wise Guys, another mafia themed film. Outfit. It's an underrated film that even Roger Ebert said that film should be looked at more. I like it. It's gives you. I'm a big fan of timepiece movies that go back in the day. I don't know. The things that I like about the 30s and 40s, the way things looked. I think this film kind of throws that in with wacky comedy. And the reason he's doing he was a good guy, but the reason he's trying to do this gangster stuff is because he's trying to take care of his mom's medical bills.
Yeah,
which cracks me up. And
a lot of good humorous interaction.
Yes, John Piscopo in the film is hilarious. Also, like Sam said, the rapid aging mom from Smoking is a great fit. Yeah, it's hilarious in its own way. Definitely a film that does not get talked about a lot like it should. But definitely deep cut gem. A good pick, Tone.
I miss the old days when you didn't have, I don't know, but before you had Hulu and all that, when you just had cable and Comedy Central would play movies all day. This is one that they would play a lot of, and that's why I was able to catch bits and pieces. And Amy Heckerling, she does a good job. She's a good director, has some good movies. This is one of them.
Yeah, definitely. Also, for legal reasons, the Weird Al song "This Is the Life" was not included on the home video release of the movie.
That's unusual.
No reason why, it just says for legal reasons. But yeah, definitely check this one out. Like I said, it's a spoof of basically all the Cagney gangster films. And it has Keaton in it being goofy, which is, he's not just a talented actor, he can also make you laugh. If these movies that we have talked about so far, I haven't told you that. But great pick, Tom. Great pick.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to our next one, my friend.
You bunch of losers! You're working with a professional here! Nice fucking model!
1988's Beetlejuice. Of course, Michael Keaton plays the role of Beetlejuice or Beetlegeist. It's directed by Tim Burton, who also did Edward Scissorhands, Sweeney Todd, the Demon of Barber Street, Big Fish, Mars Attacks, Ed Wood, Batman Returns, and Pee-wee's Big Adventures, just to name a couple of his films. It stars Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Michael Keaton, Catherine O'Hara, Jeffrey Jones, Winona Ryder, and Glenn Shaddix. The movie had a budget of $15 million and a box office of $74 million, with $23 million in video sales. Now, this is one of my picks, Tone. It had to be on the list, especially with Beetlejuice coming out. This is, again, Keaton in a comedy role that deals with the paranormal. It's one of my favorite films growing up watching, just because it deals like in the funny way of the afterlife and ghosts. It has probably one of the best music monologues in it, in Deo from Henry Belafonte, when they sing around and then they, it makes light of the afterlife. If you commit suicide, you become a public servant for the rest of your life, which was pretty crazy. And yes, Philly, I was actually about to say this. Michael Keaton's only, I believe, in 19 minutes of this film. No, 14 and a half minutes of this entire film. And he steals the show, and 95% of his lines were ad-libbed. So that part where I just played, where he's yelling at them and the model falls behind him, he ad-libbed that part because that wasn't supposed to happen. That's why he says that, and he grabbed his junk as a way to make comedy. It is, it's an all-time classic. The look, that has a Tim Burton look in terms of like the weirdness. You can see the Edward Scissorhands, like it's kind of like that gothy, like graveyards kind of look. It cracks me up, just the characters in it. Jeffrey Jones as the weird dad. You have Catherine O'Hara as the weird artsy lady, and then Otho, who's played like Glenn Shaddix, as the guy who basically lives off her, with their rich friends, and it's just one of my favorites, man. I'm really really excited that they're having a Beetlejuice come out. Now, do I hope it's going to be as good as this one? I don't know, but Keaton did also say that he would only come back if the script was good, and Tim Burton's directing it, so I'm hopefully it's going to be very good. And yes, Philly, Alec Baldwin said this was his least favorite film he's done. Not sure why. Probably because he didn't get all the great one-liners in this one. Alec Baldwin, love him or hate him, he is an egomaniac. Keaton says this film is actually his favorite. Tone, I can ramble more and more about this film, but let me know what you think about Beetlejuice.
I mean, this is probably right there with the other ones. Is right up there as one of the first ones that I've seen. This movie, if you like Halloween, it's like just pretty much Halloween house, just like sitting in, just living in Halloween. I just love this movie so much for many reasons. I mean, it's creatively amazing. Again, the jokes are pretty good for what they're trying to pull off in the movie from everybody involved. What I really like a lot is you said, is just the interaction with, like, especially as a kid, like some of the over-the-top performances. Catherine O'Hara is one of my favorite female comedians, that have ever graced the screen, and she just does a really good job as the mom in this. And honestly, since this, she's just done so much more that I can imagine in the new movie she's going to do great too. Michael Keaton, this is a great performance for him. I mean, honestly, you're looking at possibly in a different time period. I'm not saying Academy Awards, but I mean, he's really good in this performance. Now, this sequel, it's going to be different than this because it's a sequel, but he did a really, really good job in this movie. Cinematography is amazing. The sandworms for the end of time. How can you not ever think? Well, I've walked up lots of staircases and lots of houses and thought of the banister coming alive. Town over from here, 3 years ago, they turned their whole house into it was like every window was a different Beetlejuice scene, so you could walk up and see, and full dinner table scenes and everything. The movie is taken off to a new level, and honestly, it deserves it. For Michael Keaton, obviously, and so many other different reasons.
Yeah, it's comedy gold. I was reading a little background on this, and Philly, you were giving up some great trivia in the comments. He says you get a preview of Jack Skellington in the movie as well when the Beetlejuice comes up to the floor of the carousel hall. Yes, Jack Skellington is on his carousel. Also, when they're getting married, the person that's actually doing the services is actually in a video game called Kid Icarus. He's one of the bad guys, the guy who's the little demon guy. That always stuck.
Book and goes, no, really?
Yeah. He's actually, if you look him up,
I had Kid Icarus too. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's one of the, when you do the bonus games, if you get him, the bonus game ends. He's one of the little statues, which I always thought was hilarious. I'm like, did they make that from Beetlejuice, or I don't know? I have to look it up. But some of the stuff that I found funny was the studio wanted to originally call the film House Ghost. And Tim Burton, being Tim Burton, was like, as a joke, was like, well, we called it Scared Sheetless. And then the studio was like, oh, that sounds actually pretty good. And he's like, oh, hell no, I was just joking around. Which, he was very concerned about that. This was the first film to be sent out on DVD by Netflix when it was a DVD service. It still is. I guess it stopped this year, but until this year, it still was. But this is the first film that was sent out on their DVD service in 1998. Michael Keaton based his performance of Beetlejuice on Chop Top from Texas Chain Massacre 2, which was played by Bill Moseley. Awesome dude. And if you guys haven't seen Texas Chain Massacre 2, Chainsaw Massacre 2, it's just one of those films that is totally different from the original, but I like it a lot. It's supposed to be more of a comedic horror film, and it's got really, really predominant characters like Chop Top. Although the love story between Stretch and Leatherface. It's kind of weird.
That
But
video you put together, go back and check that out. That was really awesome.
yeah, it's crazy, And then for the role of Beetlejuice, you had Dustin Hoffman considered, Robin Williams,
Ooh.
Christopher Lloyd, Jim Carrey, Tim Curry, Jack
Ooh.
Nicholson, Bill Murray, Robert De Niro, which I thought would have been horrible, and John Cleese
Ooh.
were all considered to play Beetlejuice. For the role of Lydia, Juliette Lewis, Lori Loughlin, and Diane Lane, Sarah Jessica Parker, Brooke Shields, Justine Bateman, Molly Ringwald, and Jennifer Connelly all turned down the role. Brooke Shields was actually in the lead by the studio, but Tim Burton said she wasn't a draw anymore. That's pretty mean, man, but it makes me laugh. But definitely a film that I loved. I loved the TV show as a kid, the cartoon that came out from this, that spawned from this. I'm really excited to see the new film when it comes out, and we are definitely going to go see that one, my friend.
Well, it's going to be good. Going to be real good.
Yeah, Tim Curry would have been very interesting. Great character actor. By far one of the best character actors in my opinion, if not the greatest in my lifetime. But let's go on to our next one, my friend.
Hey, the American Stock Exchange really doesn't care. Some asshole makes $300 a week, says I can't use the fucking phone. I'm close, right, Craig? Like 310, maybe 315, right? That's about it, right? Isn't it, Craigie? Yeah, oh boy, big 307 a week. Boy, you gotta allocate that motherfucker, don't you? What's that, lean cuisine, maybe some pork and beans? Hey, why don't you get yourself another pair of those plastic shoes? Fine, you want me out of here? I'm fucking out of here. I'm gone! Motherfucker, look at his back!
1988's Clean and Sober. Michael Keaton plays a role as Darren Poitner, this film was directed by Glenn Gordon Caron, who also directed Wilder, Napalm, Love Affair, and Pitch Perfect. The movie stars, of course, Michael Keaton, Kathy Baker, Morgan Freeman, Tate Donovan, and Claudia Christian. It had a box office of $8 million. I couldn't find the budget of this film. Tone, we've talked about this film before. I know we do that on what you've been watching. I saw this film again a few months ago. Very, very powerful.
I mean, that's it right there. I mean, the power is, I don't know. I mean, I've never been in what they go through in this movie, but if you were ever, it's a movie that I think I watch it and you learn lessons, you understand different sides, you see different things. And Michael Keaton, again, this is the same year as Beetlejuice, and as you heard him in that rant there, I mean, he doesn't sound too far off on his rant in Beetlejuice. It's just serious and aimed towards something else, and that's what's great about his acting. I only saw this movie within the last 10 years. But like growing up and going to VHS or like a video stores, I'd always see this box and I'd be like, what is this? Clean and Sober? He's just got a sweater. And then now you're older and you're like, oh, okay. I understand. And the struggle within the movie and what he overcomes and what he deals with. And Morgan Freeman is amazing. And I find it, as you stated, to be very powerful.
Yes, definitely. And again, he is a drug addict. He's on cocaine. He's on alcohol. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that brings him to, the facility with Morgan Freeman. And he can play as a complete asshole in this film, but it shows him going through the 12 steps of recovery, and basically the way he tries to get clean. It's a powerful film. It shows like his trials and tribulations. This is like peak Keaton in terms of showing his acting chops. He can play the funny man, and in this film, he can play, the degenerate really, really well. He blurs the line very, very well. My favorite part of this film is actually prior to this scene when he's actually smoking a cigarette on the phone with the guy talking about the 92K, and the girl walks in and is like, "Oh, you can be on this phone." He's like, "Yeah, is there something fucking wrong here?" Like, he kicks her out. Keeps smoking, and that's when Morgan Freeman comes in and kicks him out and he goes on that rant. But just like that whole changing of dialogue, the mannerisms, showing like a real slime ball of person he was. I thought it was very, very powerful, and it's become one of my favorite Keaton performances, to be honest with you.
I mean, I think for me, my favorite part of the movie is it reminds me a lot of the Seven when we did Seven, and I told you at the ending was something that I felt was very powerful. At the ending, when he's standing up there and he finally, he's going to admit it, and then Van Morrison's song hits at the end, and it's such a I don't want to say it's not a happy ending. It's not the worst ending. It leaves you feeling away, and I think that's what's great about this movie. It leaves you feeling away, and those are the best type of movies.
Yeah, it's a kind of depressing ending, to be honest.
I mean, well, that's what it is. But in this movie, he thought he was in control at the beginning, and that's what it is with addiction. But man, he sure wasn't, was he?
No. And this film, we said that Keaton was known for comedy up to this time. And that's what gave the studio trouble to market it, because Keaton was known for comedy. This was not a comedy film. And that's probably why it didn't do too well at the box office. But this film inspired John Peters, who was the casting director of a movie called Batman, to cast Michael Keaton. And you remember when he was cast, people hated it. People were very upset about it. Long and behold, taking a retrospective review, it's probably one of the best casting decisions they made in that franchise. But yeah, it just shows his acting chops, man. Keaton, he's got complete package. He can do everything, and he's very talented.
He is very, very, very talented.
And if you guys haven't seen this one, it's not a well-known Keaton film, but we've talked about it a few times on our show. It is available on Amazon Prime. I think it's $3.99 to rent. Check it out. It's definitely worth your time. It's depressing, though, just a heads up. It is depressing, but it's very, very powerful.
Now, real quick before we move on, was it more depressing than the New Crow?
This was depressing in a good way because it was a powerful story. The New Crow was just depressing because I couldn't believe I spent money to go see that.
I knew that already. I just want you to say it.
But yeah, definitely check this one out. Let's move on to our next one, my friend.
Let's do it.
Why are you now determined to prove that this penguin is not what he seems? Must you be the only lonely man-beast in town?
The circus folded its tents yesterday, perhaps forever, after numerous reports of missing children in several towns. Police have closed down the Red Triangle's fairgrounds. However, at least one freak show performer vanished before he could be questioned.
I suppose you feel better now, sir.
No. Actually, I feel worse.
1992's Batman Returns. Michael Keaton plays the role of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. It's directed by Tim Burton. Of course, Michael Keaton is the star. Danny DeVito is also in the film with Michelle Pfeiffer, Christopher Walken, and Michael Gough. The film had a box office of $266 million on a budget of $80 million. I said that Keaton is the best Batman in my opinion. I know I'll get some flack for that, but he personally is my favorite. I love the original Batman, and I think the reason I love the original Batman so much is I love Keaton and I love Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson, I think, steals the show here. I think Danny DeVito does a great job as the Penguin in this film, but I love the evolution of Batman's character of the Bruce Wayne and the Selina Kyle character, romance that they have there. I think Keaton gets to act a little bit more out as Batman. He probably had more control of how he wanted the character to act. I also love the way this film is shot compared to the other one. The first Batman was dark, of course. This one's darker. Batman fucking kills somebody in this film. People say, "Oh, Batman doesn't kill." He kills a person in this film. The guy has a bomb to his chest and he kicks him down a hole, and the guy blows up. He didn't live from a bomb. Batman and Robin clears. But this is one of my, this is my favorite Batman film of the Burton films. This is will be number one to me, and then the first original will be two. But it's a close one. It's not. But I just love this film. It's one that I constantly watch. It has a Christmas theme to it. Christopher Walken's in it, which is always great as Max Shrek. Has a lot of things going for it. It made $266 million. back in '92, that was a ton of money. I remember it just brings me back to my childhood because although I did see the original, this film came out when I was a little older to watch the commercials on TV, the McDonald's commercials of him going through the McDonald's drive-through, the glasses they gave out. They did it again with Batman Forever with the McDonald's glasses. Everyone was excited to see the Penguin. And for those who don't know, Burgess Meredith, who was the original Penguin, Mickey from Rocky. I used to watch that show a lot with my mom and my grandfather when it would come on. The original Batman with Adam West, which was corny, but it had a great characters of the Penguin, and now you have a more darker Penguin in Danny DeVito, and it always cracks me up when he eats that fish in front of everybody when he's trying to run for mayor. And you have special appearances by Pee-wee's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Simone and Pee-wee play his parents. In the beginning of the film, I love everything about this film. Like I said, it's my favorite of the Burton films, Batman films. What do you think about it, Tom?
I remember this very specific. The toys, McDonald's had the cups. I believe somewhere I got a cup still. It was a cool time, man. It's a great time for movies, and Michael Keaton, he's my favorite Batman too. I've gotten into blood-curdling screaming matches over this, and I'm never going to do that again, but because you could like who you like, but I always deemed that Michael Keaton was my Batman, and that's just because he just does such a good job. I think he does a good job all around. In the suit, he looks good in Batman. Outside the suit, he looks good as Batman. But this movie as a whole is another great entry after the first one. In some ways, you can say, it's got even more creativity a little bit than the first one. Danny DeVito, who else could have played that role? Okay, number one. And number two, Christopher Walken's hair. I wish I could grow hair like that. White, all over the place. Great performance. But Keaton again. It's sad that he couldn't work it out for that third movie, but we got two really awesome. It's like back to the Aliens again. We got two really awesome Aliens movies, we should just be happy that we got those, because some series can't even come up with one. But this is a great movie, and I'll always remember it when it first came out too. Seeing it in the theater. And what I really remember, which is ridiculous, I'm going to say this, is after it comes out on VHS, I'll never forget my dad pausing the beginning and going to my mom, "Hey Mare, look, it's Pee Wee Herman." And I was like, "That's not Pee Wee Herman." And well, it was Pee Wee Herman. It was a different Pee Wee Herman. It was Paul Rubens. But again, great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say this film is kind of more creative than the first one, and Keaton and Burton did not sign on for a sequel after the first one. They were actually brought in, since the success of the first one, they were like, okay, well, we want to make a sequel. Burton only agreed to do it if he was giving more creative freedom with the script and the screenplay. He did not like the first screenplay of the first film because he didn't have control over it. Keaton, on the other hand, said he would do it if Burton came back, was one of his conditions, as well as getting a hike in salary. He didn't make a lot of money for the first film, and he got $11 million for this film. And Tim Burton, people were like, "Oh, that's outrageous," but Tim Burton was like, "No, he deserves it.
No.
He deserves all the money he get." Warner Bros. Was uneasy about giving this to him, which I think is really condescending, considering that Warner Bros. Is making, it tripled their budgets for this film. Not to mention probably all the money they made off merchandising. But he deserved all that. And yes, they were not given the third film because, again, Burton probably is not really big on sequels, and he probably thought he could move on. But there was talk of a certain person being Robin, who Tim Burton wanted to bring in, and that person was Marlon Wayans. Signed on to be Robin. Of course, when he was not introduced in this film, he was supposed to be introduced in the next film. But when Joel Schumacher took over and Tim Burton left, Marlon Wayans bought out of his contract, and we got Chris O'Donnell as Robin. It would have been interesting because of course, Marlon Wayans is African American, so it would have been a black Robin, which I thought would have been kind of cool. Different play on things, you know, and then plus he's comedic, so it would have been kind of funny too. Just a little couple, tidbits about this film. Michelle Pfeiffer went through 60 cat suits during the 6-month shoot of this film, and they cost $1,000 a piece. So she went through 60 of them. So 60 grand for her cat suits. Danny DeVito stood in character even off camera. He also had a hilarious, reminiscing about this with Arnold Schwarzenegger at the Oscars when they come out and you're going to talk about, we've been in a lot of movies. And you're like, Arnold Schwarzenegger mentions like, oh yeah, we both try to kill Batman. Yeah. And he goes, well, how did he beat you? And he's like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger's like, oh, he killed me with my most, vulnerable weakness, love. And he's like, well, how did he kill you, Danny? And he's like, oh, he just threw me out a window. And they do the famous scene of like, oh, there he is. And they're pointing at Keaton and he gives them the whole, yeah, come and get me, son, which is becoming a gif. And we used it as the opening of the show. But it always cracks me up. It just shows how this film, even though Schwarzenegger was in the Schumacher films, but like Keaton still recognized as Batman. I mean, he was brought back for Flash. That movie was not great, but I went to go see it just because he was back in it as Batman. And he was the best part of that whole film. I wish they would release Batgirl just to give us, because he's in that film as well as a mentor. I would really like them to make a Batman Beyond film with a newer Batman and him be the old Bruce Wayne. That would be kind of cool. I don't know if he's done playing Batman. He says he would always leave it open. He is getting up there in age, and I would hope that if they did another Batman film, they would bring him along for it to do something because he is my favorite Batman. But of course, he is getting older in age. But just to go back to this film, one of my favorite things besides all the stuff I talked about is that the Penguin's makeup was awesome. Very creepy, very different from the original look. Great picture got him here. Tone his design is totally Tim Burton, the design of it, and it was such hush hush to keep what he looked like. Danny DeVito was forbidden to talk about his makeup, not even to his own family. So everybody who witnessed it on film was the first time they were witnessing it. It only, except if you didn't work on the film, you couldn't. You didn't know what he looked like. So a couple people considered for this role in the film was Jodie Foster was considered for Catwoman, but she dropped out to do Little Man Tate. Gina Davis was considered for Catwoman, but she starred in A League of Their Own. Brooke Shields again was considered, but again, Tim Burton said she was no longer a bankable star. Also, to play on horror, Max Schreck, Christopher Walken's character, is named for the actor who played Nosferatu, which is going to be remade and released this, I believe, next month. Will Dafoe, Count Orlok, who was played by Max Schreck, the actor, who everybody thought was a real vampire. But I do like the little tidbits that Burton throws in there. Also, David Bowie was considered to play a role in here, but he eventually did not do so. It was given to Christopher Walken. Just a lot of little tidbits about this film. We could do deep dive into the Batman series in the future, but I just want to throw this up there because I love Keaton as Batman.
Before we move on, I just remember a story that I heard where Sean Young, who plays Finkel and Einhorn in Ace Ventura, she really, really wanted the role of Catwoman. So she showed up to the set dressed up as Catwoman and she got thrown out. It was really ridiculous. We'll have to do more research on that to even more.
Yeah, I think she was actually cast as Vicky Vale, if I'm not mistaken. And then eventually something happened where I would have to look into it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, but it's funny.
Yeah, but she got thrown off. Lorraine Bracco, who is from The Sopranos, from The Goodfellas, she was considered for Catwoman, but turned it down to do Medicine Man. She was in that film.
Karen, we needed that money.
Yeah. Why you doing it, Karen? But definitely one of my favorites.
Very good. Great
the Batman trilogy.
Pick.
All right, thank you, my friend. Let's go into another deep cut for you.
Oh, I love this movie.
Cross the line. You're in my room.
You're in my private thing. You and your boyfriend. You insulted my intelligence. You got in my area.
1989's Pacific Heights. He plays the role as Carter Haynes, James Danforth. Directed by John Schlinger. I think that's what the name is. Schlinger? I think
Schlesinger.
Schlesinger. Thank you, sir.
No, you're welcome.
My pronunciations come to haunt me again. Who also directed Midnight Cowboy, Marathon Man, and Yanks. Stars Melanie Griffin, Matthew Modine, Michael Keaton, Laurie Metcalf, and Mako. The film had a box office of $44 million and a budget of $18 million. Tone, you talked about this film before as well. Tell us why you picked it.
Because we've talked about Mako before, and for some unknown reason, I always think of him in this movie, which is the least movie you would ever think of him in. This is like, I would not think this is what I would deem to be an elite thriller for me. I love this movie in so many ways. Michael Keaton is great. He is extremely, extremely creepy in so many ways. Just really, really, really not a good guy. So like in all the other movies we've talked about, or that I could think about, there's another movie he doesn't play a good guy. It's called Desperate Measures with Andy Garcia, where he's ridiculously lifting this bag in prison that we used to make fun of. But that aside, he's really bad in this movie. And I just like the premise of the movie because it's so ridiculous in a way. These couple buys this apartment complex and they need to rent it out. And you get a Michael Keaton. And there's just so many hilarious tropes in this movie. It's another one that me and my wife watched just to kind of like zone out and have some laughs, because it's really not supposed to be laughed at, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And, this film showcases Keaton's ability to play a devious asshole. Like he plays a bad guy in this film. That scene you just showed right now, it cracks me up because of the way he looks at the cockroach. And it also makes me laugh because when I was doing research for this, Orkin, the extermination company, is big in his film for that part when he inbreds the house with the cockroaches. They pay $20,000 for the scene in which an Orkin rep is hired to exterminate cockroaches. However, the company was upset with his portrayal in the film, and it sued the producers for unspecified damages. The result of the lawsuit was not made public, suggesting that there was an out-of-court settlement there. So advertising at its finest, folks. I like this film because it's a deep cut one, but again, it shows that the different abilities of Keaton as an actor. How he's so great at his craft. He can play funny guys, he can play serious guys, and he can play demented freaks, con men, like he does in this film. Also, Melanie Griffin was actually really, really good in this film as well. The part where he gets him to punch him in the face and gets him arrested. It's like he's such a conniving bastard.
Well, I think the ridiculous in the movie doesn't come from Keaton. It's Matthew Modine. It's just overly cheesy. He just overly keeps going and going. Where like Keaton is just bad. Matthew Modine's like, I'm gonna get you, and then she ends up being like, you gotta leave for a while because that's what's crazy about the movie is that again, Matthew Modine has to move out because he's being the one who's you need some time away from Melanie, and just a lot of again, Michael Keaton playing, like you could see his face in this picture if you're watching online. He just looks like he's not there in the movie, which he does a great job. But there's a scene me and my friends would always laugh at where Melanie Griffith goes out in the garage and she's like fiddling around. She's got like her flashlight. And then she like goes into his car and he's just like standing there staring with like the serious face. I just love Keaton in this movie, and it's another indication. The main reason I picked it tonight was again to show we could show many different sides of what Keaton was bringing. So again, yeah,
it totally shows different sides of him. This film was actually one of Christopher Reeves, like Superman. Late Christopher Reeves. He really wanted to be Carter Haynes and lobbied for this role really hard. But he did not get it, and Michael Keaton knocked it out of the ballpark. But I would like to see Christopher Reeves play the role. I mean, he was a fine actor in his own right. But I don't know if he could have played it as good as Keaton.
I would have liked, actually, now that I know when you said it, I thought wrongly, but I would have liked him instead of Matthew Modine. This could have made this movie elite. Now, I like Matthew Modine too in a lot of other movies. I'm just saying the acting of Christopher Reeve and the part of the person trying to get him out would have been a really good role for him too.
Yeah, if he went for that role, I could see him like that. I think that's what kind of hinders this film a little bit, is Matthew Modine's character.
It does.
But overall, the film is good, and it's a good deep cut tone. Great pick. Also, appearance by Beverly D'Angelo in this film.
Oh yeah, she was, which is a very interesting. It's like Keith David in Roadhouse as the bartender. You're like, why is she in this? But she is.
Yeah. Be sure let her know what scene you see her in. You guys watch this, but definitely check out Pacific Heights. It's another Keaton deep cut. But we're gonna move on to our final two, and these two films are not deep cuts. For the next one, let's go into it, Tone.
You know, I'm bringing this up to you because I know this is Barron's idea, his agenda. I got to tell you, I mean, honest to God, I mean, he doesn't care about the city the way we do. I mean, how could he?
This is how it happens, isn't it, Pete?
What's that?
Guy leans on a guy, and suddenly the whole town just looks the other way.
2015 Spotlight. Michael Keaton plays the role of Walter Robbie Robinson. It was directed by Tom McCarthy, who directed Win-Win, The Visitor, The Cobbler, the Adam Sandler film, Stillwater, and Nation Agent. The film stars Mark Ruffalo, Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, Liv Schreiber, and Stanley Tucci. The film had a box office of 91 million on a budget of 20 million, along with 5 million in DVD sales. It won 2 Oscars. It won one for Best Picture and Best Writing. This is a powerful film in terms of the subject matter it covers. That with the Catholic Church, it talks about the Spotlight, an investigation team for a newspaper to expose the ring of sexual assaults that happened with the church and continue to happen and be exposed to today. It's a disturbing subject, but it's really done well, with Michael Keaton playing the role as the head of the newspaper, basically the chief editor, that works with the team. And you know, he has his flaws, as well as he was given cases prior to exposing them here that he didn't take seriously. I think there were like 13 cases he reveals that he was given heads up on but didn't expose them. But he did it now because it was getting ridiculous that it's starting to come together. This film is based off a true story. Very hard watch in terms of the subject matter, but very good performances by Mark Ruffalo and Michael Keaton. The whole cast actually does a very good job. I do like that clip I just played when he's in the he's talking to his friend in the bar, and he's basically telling him, you know, the Catholic Church would like it if you kind of swept this under the rug, you know, trying to lean on people. And he says that this is how it starts. You lean on people and you forget about them, things don't happen. And, you know, again, a very powerful film that, you know, people have said this is probably one of the best portrayals of a newspaper film in the history of cinema. I watched this again this week, Tone. Still very good. It deserved to win those awards that I think it won at the Oscars. What do you think about this one?
Before I get to the movie, I was when I immediately I think of one movie and then I think of a connection to this movie, and immediately when you brought this movie up, I thought of another movie that I remember, like when I was 12, I just happened to watch on TV with Michael Keaton, called The Paper, where he was on the paper, and it was a lot of so like when Spotlight comes out, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Another movie with Michael Keaton working as editor. Me and Katie went and saw this movie. Amazing movie across the board. I'm a huge Liev Schreiber fan. And of course, Stanley Tucci's great. Mark Ruffalo, even Rachel McAdams does really good. But Michael Keaton, again, is coming into, again, it's another different kind of seriousness. I mean, now he's playing a seriousness of, in the, what's the word I'm looking for? All the President's Men type of vein, looking for that story, trying to crack it. And he does a good job in this movie. I like looking at the late era Michael Keaton because it's just as good as those earlier movies we talked about. Birdman, Spotlight, the next movie we'll talk about. So much more. I mean, honestly, I've never seen Dumbo, but I could imagine he's pretty good in it. You know, I mean, well, how could he not be? And that's just what he is in this.
Yeah, and just for his role, this is based off real people, so they were actually in the film. The baseball scene, when they go to the baseball game, they're actually some of the real people are there. Walter Robinson's there, Sasha Pfeiffer, and Michael Resendez is in it. They're actually in the crowd. Walter Robinson, who watched the film with Keaton's portrayal, said it's like looking at yourself in a mirror. You're having no control of a mirror image, which was really, really a compliment to Keaton because he was worried that his Boston accent wouldn't be good enough for his film. And then when he met with the real Walter Robinson and found out his accent wasn't as strong, he kind of played off him. He met with him several times to get his mannerisms, to get him, to get the way he played, the way he acted as an inspiration for his portrayal. Keaton said about playing him as he's a very powerful and very direct, but until he reaches that point, he's a pretty easygoing guy, but very cagey about how he gets information, not in a bad way, in a really cool way, like a bird dog. So I kind of had mannerisms. So I kind of had the mannerisms I observed from him like that. Again, this brought the downfall of the, it's basically popped the top of the issues with the Roman Catholic Church and priest, and it's still going on to today. The name Spotlight, which is actually the name of the newspaper, and the real newspaper, put a spotlight on the assaults going on, and they're still unfortunately happening on bring them out till today. But this is like one of the things that actually got the ball rolling for the issues that were happening. But it's a powerful film. It still holds up. I really love Keaton in this role. It's kind of like he said, a cagey editor. He's more of like he's not the lead actor like a Mark Ruffalo, but he plays a great supporting cast member in this film.
Again, I love the way that you picked a movie that shows a different side of him. So this was a great pick.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Let's move on to our final film, Tone.
Now, I know what you're thinking. How the heck does a 52-year-old over-the-hill milkshake machine salesman build a fast food empire with 1,600 restaurants in 50 states, 5 foreign countries, with an annual revenue of in the neighborhood of $700 million? One word: persistence.
The Founder, released in 2016. Michael Keaton plays the role of Ray Kroc. It's directed by John Lee Hancock, who did The Little Things, The Highwaymen, Saving Mr. Banks, The Blind Side, The Rookie, and The Alamo. The film stars Michael Keaton, Nick Offerman, John Carroll Lynch, Laura Dern, Linda Cardinelli, and BJ Novak. It had a box office of $24 million and a budget of $25 million, with $2 million in video sales. Tone, tell us why you chose this one.
I think this is, again, what I would deem to be peak Michael Keaton. His performance as Ray Kroc is, again, different than everything else we've talked about tonight. Just what you know about McDonald's and knowing the story. This is the only reason I would have known the story as I sat and watched this movie.
This is some operation. Care for a little tour? Of the...
Yeah, I would.
well, finish up. I'll come back.
Alrighty, thanks.
There's something about him in the movie that makes you feel like he's exactly like because I know his character in the movie he doesn't do good things, he does take the company, but like he does make you feel like a person from that time period did back then. Like he does make you want to sign over your restaurant to him because he has that good of a heart, and I think that's in his performance.
Yeah, but he actually plays a character too that was struggling with his own business, but also, he's kind of a dick too in what he does to, the McDonald's brothers in terms of basically takes over their name and their company. Although, when I did research for this film, the show, he actually says that the McDonald's brothers, they did have some disagreements with Ray Kroc, but their bitterness wasn't as deep as what they show in the film. Of course, it's for dramatic effect, but Ray Kroc was, a visionary in terms of the way he wanted to run the business. This film sticks out to me because of a personal experience. When I was in high school, my freshman, I went to a Catholic high school. My freshman theology teacher was telling us a story about, don't miss life's opportunities, basically as an inspirational story. And he told us that his grandfather happened to be talking to his friend, and he heard about these guys that had started a fast food business in the 40s. They wanted to bring it Midwest. His friend knew one of the guys who was franchising it. He was going to put money down for a franchise, and he wanted to know if his friend, who was my teacher's grandfather, would want to come in on it. He passed it up. It turned out to be a McDonald's, and that guy basically became a millionaire from he bought several other ones. He missed out on an opportunity, but it's just crazy that then I heard that, and then now this film came out, and the reason I think it didn't do so well at the box office was it didn't get a lot of publicity in terms of advertisement. I remember watching clips for it, and I'm like, well, when's this coming out? I watched it after the fact, which is very unfortunate because it's actually a really good film. And Nick Offerman, who's mostly known for comedy, does a great job. John Carroll Lynch, who is known for playing those crazy characters, but also a great character actor, does a great job. Laura Dern is great in this film. BJ Novak is great in this film. Gives you a history of the McDonald's bringing how it was like a family run, and then basically became the corporate conglomerate it is now. And I love the fact when doing research for this film that Keaton again did such deep research for himself for playing Ray Kroc that he learned that Kroc had played the piano. So he went and taught himself how to play piano, and then took lessons so he could use that in the film. But Kroc is the reason that we have those horrible shake makers and ice cream machines that never work. Which I thought was kind of funny. But Tom Hanks was offered a role for this film, and he turned it down. And I'm kind of glad that Michael Keaton got it and basically turned it into what it is. It's a great film that doesn't get a lot of love like it should.
Yeah, I mean, Laura Dern does a great job in it too. So does Linda Cardellini. Again, I learned things like, the McDonald's, how they really make their money is they own the land in which the restaurant sits on, which they're more, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just as much into real estate as they are selling hamburgers. And you learn that too. It's like, and that's why they are very smart when it comes to a lot of things. But like he, again, as you stated, he was had a good personality in a way. But what I also brought this up to Katie recently is in the movie, how like when people first started opening up these McDonald's, they'd have like spaghetti, and then he had to come through and be like, yeah, we're not doing spaghetti. You have to stick to this specific thing, like the franchisees when they would try to open it up. Very interesting just to learn a little bit more in the background of McDonald's that isn't, Fast Food Nation or Super Size Me. So it's more on his performance too. Really good. And Nick Offerman, and you said it, and John Carroll Lynch. I mean, that guy was on American Horror Story as a clown, and then in here he's playing, one of the McDonald's brothers or whatnot.
Yeah, I always remember him from Fargo, and I always remember him from this film with Halle Berry called Gothica, where he plays the sheriff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely a great character actor. But like you said, shows the background of McDonald's. I do like the fact that when, Nick Offerman's character approaches him in the bathroom and tells him, how'd you know what this was going to become? Like, how'd you know, basically you took our business away from us? And he basically says, you had all these companies come to your restaurant and watch you guys, how you did everything inside. They tried to copy what was happening in the restaurant. He goes, well, that's part of it. Makes you successful. Doesn't make you completely successful. All those companies, they all went under. He goes, it's the name that brings people there, not just what happens in the restaurant. And McDonald's is synonymous with fast food. It's the biggest fast food place I can think of. I mean, it's everywhere. Bring back super size, man. I'm gonna be a fat ass again. But yeah, definitely a great film that should be talked about more and watched more. It's a good historic film, so even if there's a blurring of the lines, I liked it a lot. It's Americana at its finest in terms of the franchises that was started here.
Definitely.
That was some good picks, man. Those are our 10 Michael Keaton films that we like. I know there were some films left off. Birdman was the one of them. I know that people are probably gonna give us flack for it, but these are our favorite films from Keaton. So if you have some disagreement, let us know your favorite films in the comments or on the Twitters or wherever the hell it's called next week, X. But Michael Keaton, man, I hope he keeps making bangers, Tone.
I mean, he really, great movies. Of course, you got your Multiplicity, which is really good too. That he's in a different way. As you mentioned earlier, White Noise. He does a good job, and we've talked about on the show before. Elmore Leonard, Out of Sight. He's in for a little while. Jackie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many different performances that he's been in that if you're a fan and you're looking for something, you got a family and Christmas time, watch Jack Frost. That movie, he's got a ridiculous hair dye job. You're not going to miss out on that. So there's just so much. He's just such a really good actor. And honestly, with Beetlejuice coming out, to see what's going to be coming next is really going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you just said like films. He's in RoboCop as the remake as Raymond Sellers. I liked him in that role, even though that film is not as crazy original. But I mean, nothing is.
Vulture.
That Vulture, yes.
I mean, he's great as Vulture.
But what I was about to say is, see, RoboCop was a remake, and I wasn't mad at that one. But it wasn't better than the first one. But it wasn't.
Well, that's how I feel about The Thing. I that's more of it's like a prequel. Like, I'm okay if you're not touching the original work and you're trying to work around it. But when you're trying to like, here is the same exact thing, but we're gonna give you Wyatt Russell instead of Kurt Russell. No offense, Wyatt, we love you, but I'm just saying, it was Kurt the first time, so let's either do a new story. Like, I like what you were talking about, and I'm going to think about this, and we're going to talk about it at a later date, the Jason Momoa sequel to The Crow as the police officer and him losing his family. Like, what a great idea, but what a bad idea not going through with it,
Yeah, but that's Hollywood for you.
That's it.
Also, shout out to our man, Father Zoe, who has seen Cars 50 billion times because of Baby Zoe. Chick Hicks is Michael Keaton.
Does a good job in that.
Bling bling.
Yes. You brought up, which is crazy because I never really put the connection together. You talked about a young Christopher Lloyd with him in the Mr. Mom. And then he's in this other movie, Ridiculous, The Dream Team.
Yes.
With Peter Boyle, and a great performance by just a couple people in that movie with him. But again, all these movies, man.
Yeah, Keaton's definitely got a plethora of different roles. My brother Jack was joking with me when I told him what our subject was, and he's like, "Are you going to talk about Jack Frost, an instant classic?" But it made me laugh. And then my buddy who was watching your show was asking me if we were going to talk about the other guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, well, you have to tune in to watch because I already knew that was like our first one on our list. But yeah, definitely a great actor. I enjoyed everything he's done except Morbius, but that's not his fault. But check out some of these films that we mentioned, and if you have some that you really enjoy or the other ones, let us know. But that's our Michael Keaton episode. Shout out to my man Michael Keaton. Hoping Beetlejuice turns out to be, good.
He's if you get a chance, it looks like he's gonna be on that episode of Hot Ones dressed as Beetlejuice.
Yes,
which would be pretty funny to watch.
Yeah, so be sure to check that out.
Yeah.
But my friend, that is our Michael Keaton top 10 films. Do you have any news and rumors that you want to talk about? I saw you had
No, I just that was an accidentally slide.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we don't forget about that. Let's go into what's coming soon, my friend.
Let's do it.
If I can find a little clip here. Oh, here we go.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
So what's coming soon, Tom?
You might be, why am I laughing? Because I've been waiting to do this all night. Next week, man, which was really a surprise, and I can only do is say yes, because next week we're going to be covering Jurassic Park, the classic. I saw it in the movie theaters. It was amazing. I'm really excited to dig into this one. It's got Newman. It's got a whole lot of people. It's going to be a good time, man.
Yeah, and first of all, to that singing rendition.
Wow. Wow.
The reason that we're going to go into this film is there's been a lot of talk about the new Jurassic World sequel, who just cast Scarlett Johansson in the film. Of course, the other sequel they had, the original cast come back for Jurassic World. So I figured since that's been in the news, let's go back to the original that was epic for a person who loves dinosaurs. I read Michael Crichton's books after the fact, of course. But I remember seeing this film in theater as well, and I love to go down those journeys of us experiencing films in the theater.
It's great.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this one. So we will be back on Friday next week at probably 8:30ish again for a deep dive. Yes, the film is 31 years old. It's ridiculous, man. 31 years for Jurassic Park.
Crazy
stuff. We will be back for the deep dive into Jurassic Park. Again, that includes the development, the film breakdown, and the critical reception and fan theories from the film. I'm a huge fan of Jurassic Park. I can watch anything about dinosaurs. I know my buddies are. My buddy, one of my best friends, talks about dinosaurs all the time, which is kind of funny. Mookie Wilson, who was a famous Mets player, said he had to believe in dinosaurs because they believe in him. That's an actual quote. You can actually look that up. He actually said that to a newspaper. So check out, Jurassic Park Watch. We watched it for another time and come and chill with us on Friday for the deep dive. And just a heads up, going forward after the baseball season, usually we do Sunday when I have a game on Friday. Today I didn't go to the game, so we did our usual Friday schedule. Once the baseball season is over, we'll be predominantly Fridays at 8:00 will be our time. I actually like this. It's a nice little reset to start to the weekend.
I was checking too. I could be wrong, but I think the last 2 weeks, even the baseball season, they're on the road on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of like, so just a couple more weeks. If we happen to go on a Sunday, that'll be the last one.
Yep. And we can get to after we get to the Sugar Baggy soundtrack of the week. Let's go into that. Tell them right now the Sugar Baggy soundtrack pick of the week, and then we can get to our closing up and put button on this sucker. Okay?
Do it.
Right. The Sugar Baggy soundtrack pick of the week.
Clinton.
George Clinton.
Parliament Funkadelic.
And a Parliament Funkadelic.
PCU, a soundtrack that, never really ever gets talked about, and it should, because honestly, watching this movie again in that 13, 14, 15-year-old age and seeing the Parliament Funkadelic, I didn't know what I was watching, and I really wish I did at that moment, because my whole life could have changed, because I didn't realize the funk until like 10 years later. But man, this soundtrack really, really has a lot of good stuff, a lot of deeper cuts. on it that you don't usually see a whole lot on other stuff. In the movie itself, of course, you had, like I stated, George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelic, but on the soundtrack, you have Mudhoney, Steve Vai, which is a very interesting pick, the Connells, Red Cross, just a very interesting, deep soundtrack. There's this band, Beautiful People, with a Jimi Hendrix interlude on there too. Looking for something a deeper soundtrack, this is where you're going to find it on the PCU soundtrack. You see PCU?
Oh man, I to be honest with you, I can't remember any of it. If I've seen it,
Oh my lord, I think you'd like this movie a lot just by talking to you. So
I think I've seen it. I have to read a little bit to see if I remember it. It's one of those films that kind of like probably I watched it and I'm like, oh okay, but looking at the soundtrack, I'm pulling it up. You know, you got "Pump It Up" by Elvis Costello, which is we do a thing on Twitter called Vibes, and that was one of the vibes I picked. I love that song, even though to be honest with you, I discovered that song. There should be an encyclopedia. I don't know if you remember this. I'm dating myself. Called Encarta. Do you remember Encarta? Online encyclopedia.
Oh yeah.
I had Encarta before I had internet. Before I had America Online, I had the Encarta, and I was just looking. I would look up stuff on the encyclopedia just because I was a nerd. And "Pump It Up" was one of the songs they played on there, and that got me like listening to it. So I used Napster, and I got Encarta. I got downloaded "Pump It Up." That's where I got most of my music from.
Oh, that's awesome.
Back then, I really liked. I like Elvis Costello, another guy who doesn't get talked about a lot. You got Prince on here for Erotic City, Afternoon Delights on here. Henry Rollins.
Great. If you do sit down and watch it, I mean, if you saw on the screen there, of course, Jon Favreau is a really great performance. Jeremy Piven, if you ever enjoyed him in anything, he's equally as great in this. David Spade is a real prick. Good job, which he always usually is. The soundtrack and the music tie the bow all over across it. And honestly, tonight on a couple of, like I said, that soundtrack that we had for the Night Shift soundtrack, that lot of good music on there. Even honestly, Danny Elfman's score for the Batman Returns soundtrack is really good. So had a really music central, good music tonight.
Yeah, good pick, man. I'll definitely check this one out. I have to see if I can find where to watch it. But I'll definitely check it out. Good picks, man.
Thank you.
So that is our show tonight. Before we go, I do want to send some condolences out for those who listened to our show a couple episodes ago where we had Michael Keaton on. He did one of our In Defense Of for the what movie was it? He did
Iron
Man 2. He did Defense of Iron Man 2. I'm sorry, I'm Cotton. I had a brain fart there. But he does a show called the Sun Ranter Show, which is a Cubs-centric podcast that's been going on, I think, since 2012, if I'm not mistaken. All good guys over there. His co-host, Danny Rocket, who's actually been a supporter of our show. When we first started out previously, I told him I was doing a podcast. He let me promote my stuff on his,
that's awesome.
His stuff, his Discord, and like I said, Cotton's been one of our biggest supporters. Danny's mom passed away, unfortunately. Big Cubs fan. The world lost a big Cubs fan. So I just want to send my condolences out to him and send positive vibes out to Danny. Danny's a real good dude. If you know who Danny is, he did send out a link in the Ranters group as well as on Twitter, I believe, if you want to watch the services, which I believe are tomorrow. Be sure to do so. Also, he has some spots where if you want to donate, they didn't want flowers. They wanted to go to, I believe, a couple of charities. Just show him your support. Danny's a good guy. So sorry to end, on a low note, but I just wanted to say that because Danny's a good dude and those guys have supported us and just want to send out our condolences to him. Also, if you guys haven't, check out Marge Raguso, aka Carmela Soprano, not Carmela Soprano. What's her name? Emo Carmela Soprano on Twitter. One of our fellow penguins. She's doing the PKD walk. She does it every year. She does it in September. If you want to donate for her walk, she has her link on there. We'll drop our link on our website as well as in the comments for the YouTube. Be sure to check it out if you can. penny, a dollar, anything you do, just show her support. It's also for a good cause. So shout out to Marge for doing that. Sorry, Tone, to give it a little, bring it a little down a little bit.
Oh no. I mean, we like to reach out and really always share care to people who are awesome. And honestly, I saw that online with Danny and I felt really bad. Obviously, I've lost my mom and I can immediately understand where he's at because she seemed to be a huge Cubs fan. And honestly, what better thing to do than just to say a little bit of condolences. So, man, that's what we do here.
Yeah. But thank you everyone for listening, for watching, for commenting. Tone, we have you have a busy week coming up. We have the Hook Up on Music coming up on Wednesday. Tell everybody about your last episode and what you got coming up.
Last episode, lots of awesomeness. Had a good time. Talked to Keith Moon, which is a really great drummer for The Who. Went in depth for some new artists. This new art band that I really enjoy called BBY. This new song called Kinky. Really, really good stuff. Also, this upcoming week, Yumper brought up Elvis Costello. He will be one of the features on this upcoming episode, so please check that out.
Yes. Also check out the SadisticPenguinStudios.com where we're dropping blogs, as well as our podcast. Getting Drafting here is coming with a special Sunday show tomorrow on our YouTube channel. I believe it's at early in the day.
Yes, it sure is.
I said tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday.
Sunday.
But Sunday, it's coming on Sunday with Dougie from the Chicago Sports Bums and one of our own, Bruhan Luke, who does Grateful Ducks. He's also doing a tailgate for college football tomorrow on our.
It's going to be at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay, 8 p.m. on Sunday, and Luke's doing the tailgate tomorrow at 9:30, I believe, on our YouTube channel. So he'll be talking all college football. Luke is probably one of the most knowledgeable people I know about college football. So whenever I have questions, I talk to him about it. I always ask him if Illinois is going to be in the top 25 rankings, and he laughs at me. But check him out, show him a little love. He talks. He has some good stuff.
He was the first one to reach out to me with those Pearl Jam tickets privately, and I unfortunately had to decline. And then my coworker at work also got invited to Pearl Jam, and he had to decline. So we sat there really upset today after looking at the set list. He's a great man. Check out the Ducks.
Yeah, check out the Ducks if you can. And check out everything in Sadistic Penguin Studios. Thank you again, everyone, for watching, listening, commenting, and just putting up with us go on rants. If you like the Crow remake, I'm sorry, but I did not. But thank you so much. And we'll be back on Friday for some Jurassic Park.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?